Everybody to the Practical Proficiency podcast. I have such an exciting guest for you today as part of our Meet the Speaker series. Allison, welcome to the stage. I'm so excited for people to get to know you better behind the presentations, because you've got two that you will be sharing with us so generously at Practical and Comprehensible Celebrate this year. Let's get into the good. So Allison Perryman brings over a decade of experience as a passionate Spanish language educator. Her enthusiasm for exploring diversity within world language communities has been an essential part of her personal journey. And we're going to get into some of that today. A graduate of the University of Pennsylvania. Oh, I didn't know that. And later a master's student from Middlebury College. Allison is an advocate for diversity, inclusion, and Afro-Latinidad. She founded the Cultural Classroom, a small edtech business dedicated to helping world language teachers integrate authentic culture in their curriculum. So presenting on similar themes at id Service workshops, Google, Guatful, Flavor, the World Language Podcast, the World Language Teacher Summit, keynote speaker at Flengy.
Yeah. It's like the ABC soup of world languages.
So many good ones. Look at all these accolades. And now presenting at Practical and Comprehensible, Allison is dedicated to sharing her extensive experience with other educators to create a culturally rich and inclusive learning environment. And that's what she's here to do today. Allison, welcome. I'm so excited to get to know more about you and your classroom and share a little bit of the behind the scenes with our attendees. So tell us more about you and your classroom.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much for having me. First off, I am so excited. When you first asked me to come and join this project, I was like, me? Because I saw so many awesome people come through this conference, and it's just so amazing. So thank you so much for having me join the conference, the experience, the podcast, everything. I'm just so excited to be a part of everything.
You're so kind. I'm thrilled to have you be a part of it.
I always think of myself, and when I talk to my students, I think of myself as the granddaughter of immigrants. Because like almost all of my grandparents are immigrants. And so, well, I believe all of my grandparents are immigrants. And my maternal grandparents that at least were the most influential in my family were immigrants from South America, from Guyana. And that always was a big influence in my family and in growing up. And I lived in Brooklyn in a community that was a Spanish-speaking community. And so it was just such an interesting experience growing up because I was from an English-speaking country in South America living in a Spanish-speaking community in an English-speaking country. So it was a very weird experience growing up. A lot of people just started speaking Spanish to me, and it was cool. I loved it. And that's how I grew to love Spanish. And I remember when I was really little, I saw a language tree. I think all of us have had that experience where we've all seen a language tree at a young age, and we were like, "What is this?" and I had to learn more about languages. So I'm just a lover of culture and just lover of languages, and that's just my shtick. That's my thing. That's what I love to do, and so that's who I am. And I'm a mommy. And so those are really my identities as professional and my mommyhood.
That's beautiful. What an exciting story to share with your students and with your family too, to have this amazing experience of living in, what would you call that? Such a, is it the salad bowl is the appropriate analogy I guess we're going with now?
Yeah,
But
people use the salad bowl analogy, right? And like they don't use the melting pot anymore, but I still feel that melting pot feeling because it was like, the neighbors were borrowing things from us and we were borrowing things from them, and everybody was influencing everybody, and every Christmas we make pasteles, and that's a typical Puerto Rican dish. We're not, from no one in my family is Puerto Rican. And we're from other places, but not there. And so it's just really beautiful how cross-cultural connections were made um, in that neighborhood during that time period. And I know we don't use melting pot anymore, but it felt a little melting pot-ish, like a fondue-ish. um, but yeah, and it's interesting because my I was just talking with my aunt this morning, and she didn't learn Spanish from birth, uh, but she did learn Spanish from her friends. And I was talking with her, and she said bien, and I said, "You say it just like a Caribbean person." And she said, "Oh, I just learned it from my friends." And it's just interesting, that cross-cultural connection that was just created. And that's my ultimate passion. That and Afro Latinidad, those are the things that get me so excited. It's just
Mhm.
how Spanish in particular, because that's the language that I studied and that's the language that I researched extensively. Um, in the centuries of its existence, has connected with other languages, whether it's even sign language or it's spoken language or whatever it may be, how it's connected with different languages and cultures.
That's such a beautiful vision. And I think too that you're nailing the need that we have kind of as a culture in America right now. Like obviously we've got a lot of things that we're trying to figure out about ourselves every day, especially right now, that we don't have a good way right now to describe that feeling of like we feel the push and the pull and the beautiful warmth and influence of that melting while still keeping our own identity. Like it's not that you lose identity when you come in contact with others. It adds this beautiful thing to it. So we're kind of at a loss for how to describe that, but it's the best part of coming into contact with other cultures is that it adds value to who you are while you can still also keep all the beautiful pieces of yourself.
Absolutely. And I think that's the sense of interculturality, is that you're exchanging cultural ideas, whether it's both ways or just one way,
Mm.
while you may maintain your own cultural identity. And so that's another reason why this is so important, is because children are able to see themselves in that intercultural exploration. If I put on a video of a K-pop band singing in Spanish, and I have Korean students who are like, I have never in my life seen a Korean person sing in Spanish. And then I have students who love K-pop, and they're like, I have never in my life heard K-pop in Spanish. I have now hit two sections of my population who are now interested, curious, maybe might Google search some more songs and make a playlist. I've had that happen in different situations where they've made playlists and they've become curious and developed a closer connection with the language. Um, Last year, I had at least 10 major or mid cultural projects that we did in class, whether it was salsa dancing in class, the whole class get up, you get 100 if you salsa dance. Everyone scrambles and gets up, and we do a video together. But then the video goes into the history of salsa dancing and merengue and different things. Um, and so it's cool because they get a little bit of history. And we also do like an Afro Latino project. We do different projects in class. And at the end of the year, I asked them, do you feel more connected to the language? And 80% said that they felt more connected to the language and culture after doing the different cultural experiences in class. A student said that they didn't just take a language, they adopted a culture. And I thought that was so beautiful.
My
I know,
heart.
right? That's one of those quotes that like you'll never forget. You'll just never. Yeah. So it was very nice. It was very nice. And that's what I try to do with my resources is that like a taste of Colombia. Now, I've gotten some pushback. Why did you name it a taste? I just named it a taste because it's a smattering of different cultures and you get a bit of this and a bit of that and a bit of that, okay? It's not too say anything bad about any culture, but a taste of Colombia and a bit of Colombia. And within that actually massive packet is Palenque. And so students learn about one of the first freed slave settlements in the Americas. And they learn that it was actually in Latin America. How beautiful is that that occurred in Latin America? And this group, they were able to hold their own and have just become free even to this day. A piece of Africa in Colombia is what they say. And so I just think it's wonderful to teach about these cross-cultural connections in class, to bring social justice topics in class, which is what I'm presenting about in my presentation. The language learners to global citizens, and I'm bringing in how you can invigorate your students, make them excited, get them into it by using social justice and interculturality to get them just excited about language, because a lot of students aren't excited about language anymore.
And that's the one thing that I feel we as language teachers, like that's what we're so in it for. And that can be the hardest part is that like we're so stoked about language. And the reason we want to be teachers is to share that with other people. And the reason I asked you to be a part of this conference is because you do that so naturally. Like this thing that is really hard for teachers, which is to had to naturally in an infusion style transmit the beauty of culture, the all of the ins and outs and subtleties of interculturality with this focus on inclusion. That is not easy to do, but you have made this happen in your classroom on such a consistent basis that it's really powerful. So tell me a little bit about how you talked about how your students react to this every day, which is amazing. And you said that you do this in project format. So how do they like the projects and how does that fit in with I know you're going to talk about this a little more in your presentation, but tell me about how projects fits into this. And the reason I'm asking is because I hear so often that it's hard with a jam-packed curriculum to actually get to the culture you want to do. So I'm so interested to hear on like what your culture units look like.
Sure. Thank you for asking, because that is actually one of the biggest points of feedback that I get is how do I put this in the curriculum? And so this is what I say. This is what I say. It takes a little bit of planning. So each quarter or each semester, I will plan one major activity, and the students know this. And so they're excited. They want to know what is the project that's going to come up next semester or next quarter, because they know that there's going to be something. I've told them at the beginning of the year that there are going to be the cadences X, Y, and Z, depending on the level or the grade. And so I will give them a lot of autonomy with the projects. So I have one that's an Afro-Latino heritage project. And I have a list. I should say a proprietary list, but it's not. I have a list of like 60 Afro-Latinos that I personally researched every single one to make sure that they were, classroom friendly. I wanted to put Cardi B on that list so badly. I wanted to put her on there so badly. Okay, I love her, but I can't have a student come up in front of the class talking about, different things. So,
I also like your middle school is different. Like you could get away with it in high school.
Yeah, maybe in high school that would be totally cool. And that's the fun thing about that. That project is totally editable, so you can put whoever you want on that project.
Yeah.
But I give you a base of about 60 people, and I started that list freehand, just typing. And I put a whole bunch of people on there. And I realized that they were all musicians and athletes. And I said, oh my gosh, this is my personal bias. And I stopped and I made categories. And I said, you have to fill each category with at least 10 people. Or, whatever number I came up with. So anyway, the students have a certain number of flexibility, a certain amount of flexibility. They have to pick one person. They cannot repeat. So each student has this one person, and they're going to write an essay about this person, and then they're going to make a presentation to present in class. So depending on your schedule, this is a very flexible project, right? Because you could have them, it's like a flipped project. You could have them do the writing at home, and you could, if you have no time in your schedule, have them do the presentation video and have a gallery walk and have the students do the score guide and rank each student, not rank, it's not actually ranking, but like talk about each student and what they learned. And now all the students have learned about 30 Afro-Latinos. And then now you have this Google form that they get to fill out who their favorite was. And so it's just so exciting because if you have no time, then put it on them. You need to learn this. You need to do it outside the classroom. I don't have enough time. It's on you.
Yeah.
Now, I have the time, so I get to do it in the classroom. But when I run out of time, that's what I do. So,
That's amazing.
Yeah. I hope that's helpful to some teacher.
It is, because what you did there was gave us like there's like the overall tips, but you gave us a really nice specific walkthrough of how it works for you. And I find like the practical person in me is like, that's what I want. I want to know how you do it so that I can kind of do it my way. Like that's perfect.
Yeah.
And I like your teacher where you gotta flip it. Go ahead.
No. I was going to say each teacher is different and they have different needs. And so they can alter whatever they need to change. They can change whatever part they need to change. That's why I like to provide different things, number it, have a guide. These are the things you have. These are your assets. Use whatever you need.
It's almost like curriculum made by teachers is really good for teachers.
I think so.
Yeah, so teacher friendly. I also love too that you're asking students not only to be responsible for it, but they also have so much autonomy. Like they get to pick a lot of who they want to focus on. They get to talk a lot about who they find to be the most interesting. Like there's a lot of personalization in this style that you're presenting here.
Of course, because students, they need to have that autonomy to a certain degree at a certain age. And so teachers need to understand read their students and see how much autonomy to give their kids. And so this is a research project, and you can be as harsh as you want or as liberal as you want with the research project as you see fit. I have them go on Purdue OWL's website and they have to do citations, and I'm just like, good luck, have fun. That's how it was in college for me. You want to go to college? Have fun. But the gymnast, always choose the gymnast. The athletes tend to choose the athletes. The ones who want to make me happy choose like Nicolas Guillen. They ask me who I want.
Start citing poetry. Amazing.
They're like, oh, you love Nicolas Guillen? Okay, we'll choose him. I had one student come up to me, and the reason why this project is so powerful is because students realize that you don't have to look like certain celebrities or certain people to be Hispanic. that
Mhm.
ethnicity, it's a lesson, a massive lesson on ethnicity and race. And I had a student who was white presenting. He stayed after class and he said, he was very nervous. He had a question for me. And he said, my mom is Hispanic. And I was like, okay. Like it was a big secret. And he said, can I be white and Hispanic? And I said, well, you can be black and Hispanic. So I was just totally messing with him. But I was like, you can be black and Hispanic. So what do you think? And he was like, I guess so. You can be white and Hispanic. And so then I started telling him that there were lots of communities of white Hispanic communities. The Spaniards considered themselves white in Latin America, and they were Hispanic in Latin America. And so he said, do you know my middle name is Joaquin? And I said, I didn't know that. And he said, I think I want to be called Joaquin moving forward. So from that day to the end of the school year, everyone called him Joaquin.
That's beautiful. There's so much to be learned from that. That when you're talking about identity in the classroom, especially I feel like with middle schoolers, it's so much of a show don't tell, inquiry not presentation. Like,
Absolutely.
let's see how much representation can we put in the curriculum should be the main question, because through that, then your students will have the opportunity to start the wheels turning themselves, because us spouting constantly about the importance of diversity is not going to make that much sense to them. Like, in their own world, what this kid's going through is probably a really confusing phase in middle school of like, who the heck am I? Like, how do I fit into this intercultural identity? What does it look like? And then by having, like you said, 60, by having like 60 people to shuffle through that have all of these different everything, exactly like you said, like maybe white presenting, maybe all different hair textures, colors, styles,
Asian,
everything. Like,
Afro-Asian Cuban,
mhm,
like, Wilfredo Lam, he's a painter from Cuba whose one of his parents is Chinese, and the other one is Afro-Cuban. And so a, a lot of my Asian kids pick him up because they're like, this is so cool.
yeah.
And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to offer kids that representation, whether it's I pick this person because I want to be a lawyer and I see myself in them. Um,
Mm,
I also feel that a lot of students, and this, I don't know if this may sound harsh, but I don't feel that a lot of students identify first with someone who's Afro-descendiente. I don't feel that that is the first go-to um, of my student population. Um, and so it's nice to have students who are like, well, I chose this person because they are a Supreme Court Justice of Panama, and I want to be a lawyer too, and I admire them deeply.
mhm.
Oh my gosh. Wow. It's amazing.
Yeah. And thank you for that, like, expansion of that term too, because that's really what it is all about, right? Is that we want students to see themselves in all different realms as well, for because identity is such a hugely, well, it's us. It's everything about us, Identity is everything. So
Right.
it's how could there be anything more important than that to talk about in the classroom? Which is why I appreciate that your approach to it so much, because you make it easy to talk about something that's not.
It is. It can be kind of awkward, but I think that um, it's just important. It's important to acknowledge and to, um, what should I say? To acknowledge and to care for each other's identities.
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Well said.
I think that it's important to also be kind. A lot of people are still trying to figure it out at 70 years old.
Mhm. That's really true. That is very true. We're making new discoveries about ourselves every day, and if we're not, then, I mean, if you're not growing, then what are you doing?
Right. Right. Exactly. Yeah.
This is so cool. It's so nice to like see a window inside of your beautiful mind, the way that it works and how your classroom happens. And I'm sure
Oh,
they're going to be so excited to hear more about everything that you are talking about at this year's conference, because they got to see like this nice little window into all of your thought process. This is really, really cool.
I really hope so. Between that and the celebrating students presentation, I think the presentations are going to connect really nicely. I hope that this all kind of showed a little bit of how I think and and everything. And yeah, I always tell my mother, like, I love culture. I remember when I was young, and I don't know if I recorded this in one of the videos, but I was in middle school, and I was in Spanish class, and we had moved because no, I was in high school. We had moved because she had gotten remarried, but we moved to a completely different demographic. And so the teacher it was no sazon, like nothing, no seasoning, nothing in that classroom. It was just potato salad with raisins. And so and so I told my mother one day, I came home and I said, I don't understand why we can't do like a telenovela skit or something fun to teach the language. And my mom was like, oh, interesting. Like, she probably was just like, what? I picked up the textbook and I was like, this is not Spanish. It's so dramatic. This is not Spanish, okay? Culture is outside of this textbook. And I didn't know I was going to be a Spanish teacher.
And here you are.
Here I am.
That's oh, that is so good. I remember having a similar moment too when I was a French college. When I was in college studying French as a major, and I was so frustrated on how, I'm sure you experienced this too as a Spanish major, of like, why are we doing so much lit? This is ridiculous. I'm not an English major. I love to read, but like, I'm here for the music. I'm here for the talking. What the hell is this? Like, if I have to read any more Baudelaire, sad poetry about how it's raining, I'm like, je m'en fous. I don't care. I don't want any more of it. And that was the moment where I was like, I'm so ready to dive into like la francophonie. I'm so excited to actually bring like what French people talk about, because there were a bunch of like native French speakers in my class who took it so that they would get like an easy A, like that's what, I'm here. I was recruited for tennis, but I'm going to take this class because it's easy. Yeah. Like there was a lot of that. So oh my God, that was the moment where I knew, like, it's teacher time. I'm gonna shake this up. I feel like you're doing the exact same thing, like your 8th grade self, like shaking that textbook.
I know. I'm using this kind of as like my testing ground. But
we need it.
Interesting because you bringing that up, I'm thinking to myself how culturally literature, because I wouldn't really say that about Spanish. I kind of like Spanish literature. And so, but culturally, the themes are different depending on who is considered part of the canon. And so, yeah, right? Who are we considering as part of the canon? Because if we're reading literature from Haiti, and so what is considered the canon there? And so it's just kind of interesting. Like, it's very interesting, but a college is not really going to, unless you're doing like Caribbean studies or something. Like,
yeah.
That's really rare.
I did it. That's why I was so frustrated. I did Latin American Caribbean studies, and I was like, what is this? Like, there's more than 18th century French. Like, what's going on here? Yeah.
Yeah, my wheels just started turning. I was just like, what's considered as part of the canon? Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's a big problem with like my French teachers know what's up. It's like we have to constantly be like, French class is more than France. Like that's my motto. That's the mission. That's the thing.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, you and I are kindred spirits on that front.
I did study French for a few years, but it's not as good as my Spanish, unfortunately.
Well, it's one of those things where it's beautiful to have, but I would say too that it's mastery is a very valuable thing to have. Like, don't undervalue that. Like, the focusing in on one thing really allows you to get really good at a language, where I'm like, I can travel in both languages and I can teach both languages, which is beautiful, but there's also like a ceiling that I'm definitely having trouble getting over. So it's great to have the focus.
Mastery of French is important. I had someone say to me, and I my French was amazing at that time, and they were like, "Do not speak my language. You cannot speak my language." And I was just like, "You can't speak my language either."
Yeah, like,
it was just so rude, that it made me think that. And I was like, my French is the bomb right now. I was in France. I was living my little, whatever, something in Paris, dreams, And so, but yeah, I found that French is way less forgiving than Spanish.
Parisians are. You go to other regions and they're so excited. But yeah, Parisians in particular. Yeah, I mean, they're New Yorkers. They're the New Yorkers of the world.
Ah, got it. Makes sense.
Yeah. They're so over being the number one tourist destination. They're so over it. Yeah. Life as a language teacher, there's always too much to talk about.
I know.
Always too much to talk about. Well, this has been so much fun, Allison. I feel like we could do this for a while, but we got to make sure that we get everybody to the conference so that they can learn even more about you, because you and I are going to be hanging out live for one of the presentations as well. So you'll make sure that you are signing up for that section of the conference. But even for everybody as well, Allison will be presenting for an on-demand presentation as well. So below this video, you will see Allison's special affiliate link so that you can support her and all of her work to sign up for this free conference at no extra cost to you. So come hang out with us so that we can chat more when it comes time on July 29th through 31st. I'm so excited for them to meet you.
Yeah,
it's going to be amazing. All right, Allison, can you close us out with what is something that you hope for teachers after hanging out with us for just for like a half hour here? What do you hope teachers get from learning from you?
I feel like I need a microphone.
Yeah, do it. Bring it
I
in.
hope that all teachers invest in self-care and interculturality. Mic drop.
And now you drop it. Yeah. Incredible. We have to leave on that because it could get better, but it would be a lot of pressure. That's the best. That's the best to go off. Self-care, interculturality. Enough said. It's beautiful. Allison, I know, right? Thank you so much for sharing all of your wisdom with us, and I can't wait to hang out with you again when it's conference time. So we will see y'all then. Bye for now. Bye.